Are there any items to be added or deleted?
There are none, Mayor.
Thank you. This brings us to the portion of our agenda for oral reports from the public related to items that are not on the agenda. I have slips turned in on agenda items so far, and I'm not aware of any for non-agenda items. Again, please wait for agenda items as they come up if you have comments, but any other comments on non-agenda items, this is your time. Seeing none, we'll close that portion. Councilman Peterson has a few words that he would like to share with us and some introductions.
We're so privileged in this city to have visitors from around the world who come here because of medical care and education. We have a couple here tonight visiting City Council, first time in America, first time at Loma Linda City Council. Robin and Lean Fowser, they're standing in the back. They are from Australia. This is their first time in America, and I had the privilege of taking them around the other day to show them a bit of the city of Loma Linda, and they've enjoyed their stay here. He's been here for some medical treatment, and welcome to the city, and we're glad you were here. Glad we could serve you.
Welcome. Conflicts of interest, we will deal with those when the items occur. This brings us to our first scheduled item, and this is Council Bill R-2009-32, commending City Manager Dennis Holloway for his dedicated service. This is an item I don't think we need any debate on. Certainly comments would be appropriate, and I'm ready to entertain appropriate action on this.
Well, I'll move Council Bill R-2009-32.
I'll second it.
Third.
So that's clearly moved and seconded. Certainly, well, I tell you, why don't we move ahead with this, make some proclamations, and then everyone will have opportunity to add comments. So, been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Clearly unanimous. Normally, in the interest of time, try to summarize resolutions like this. I will skip a few things, but I'm going to read most of this just because of the occasion and to show our appreciation to Mr. Holloway for his years of service. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Loma Linda commending Dennis Holloway for outstanding service to the city upon the occasion of his retirement from civic duty. Whereas Dennis R. Holloway has served the City of Loma Linda as City Manager from March 2001 to July 2008. Boy, time goes by, doesn't it? Bringing to the city, did I say 8? I'm sorry, 2009. Bringing to the city expertise in finance, administration, and redevelopment. And whereas Dennis R. Holloway expressed the city in several organizations, including Inland Empire, City Managers Associated, Arrowhead United Way, etc. Mr. Holloway has served the city in a forthright manner, which not only brought credit to himself, but also benefited the community by his personal relationship with residents and businesses, as well as medical and educational institutions. Whereas Dennis Holloway improved employee relations and working conditions, which not only benefited city employees, but also improved services to the public. Whereas the city and the citizens enjoyed many accomplishments during his tenure, and I will read some of these, some of which were construction of the Senior Center, installation of the solar panels on the Civic Center and the Senior Center, fire station, expansion of the library, construction of fire station number 2, which I think most of us know just opened recently. Expansion, as we mentioned, Loma Linda Library, widening of the Mountain View overcrossing, which I'll digress, you've all seen will open very shortly. Purchase of approximately 1,100 acres in the South Hills for open space and trails, implementation of the Loma Linda Connected program to provide internet services to all residents and businesses, establishment of the Heritage Park to preserve historic structures. Any of you have been down there recently? Pretty exciting. See locomotive and different things. Construction of the Bryn Mawr Veterans Memorial Park, improvements to Hulda Crooks and Leonard Bailey parks, implementation of a Healthy Cities program, including the establishment of 2 community gardens and a seniors nutrition program, adoption of a general plan in all elements, purchase and consolidation of parcels for affordable housing, development and implementation of affordable housing and programs, and substantially increase the reserves, thus enhancing the financial stability of the city. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Loma Linda hereby highly commends Dennis R. Holloway for his dedication and interest in the well-being of the City of Loma Linda, its employees, citizens, businesses, and institutions, and extends best wishes for a healthy, happy, and enjoyable retirement. And be it further resolved that the mayor and city clerk are hereby authorized and directed to execute this resolution on behalf of the city council, that it be spread in full page upon the minutes of this meeting, that a certificate bearing this resolution and the seal of the city be presented to him on behalf of a grateful community and city, passed and approved and adopted 23rd day of June 2009. Let's all join in giving Dennis a well-deserved, tremendous recognition. I'd like to at least give council members a brief moment for any comments, because I know some heartfelt thoughts that each might want to share briefly.
Well, Dennis, one of the things that some of us have noted about you, besides your interest in the whole world, because you are widely traveled, is at least at the meetings I've been at where you've been present, you know a large number of people. And one can tell when you're with Dennis at some of these meetings that he doesn't just know the people, but they have a lot of respect for him. And another thing about Dennis you can tell is when you talk with him on some of the issues of government, I think we all know how challenging times can be. Based on his experience of being in a number of places all over Southern California, working in these different places, Dennis has gotten a great deal of common sense based on a large number of experiences on how to deal with challenging situations. So, you know, when you hear the number of things that have been accomplished while Dennis has been here, you can appreciate how they got accomplished. So, Dennis, I want to just say I know I'm going to miss you. I know we all are, and wish you very well. That list shows what you have been capable of accomplishing in really a remarkable career here.
Yeah, I was one of the people that voted to hire you. And on my tenure on city council, I've voted to fire a couple city managers and to hire a few. And this was the best decision we made to hire a city manager. I'm definitely going to miss you. I've appreciated everything you've done for the city. And you can definitely retire in peace and knowing you went out looking really good. Don't forget about us. Come back and visit once in a while. Thanks a lot, man.
Well, Dennis, the jewel of the Inland Empire is going to lose one of its facets tonight, and Jarb has some very large shoes to fill. I wish all of you could see the communications we have with Dennis. He writes the most wonderful homespun weekly updates that are just a joy to read, and and he's got his special wit in those, and I'll really miss that. To me, you can be gone for a week from this place and know exactly what happened because you read that. Dennis is a tough guy, but he has that with a lot of compassion. He has a lot of compassion for the employees of this city, and he has a lot of respect for the citizens of the city, and he's done a tremendous job of threading the line between the political factions that have riven the city for the last few years, and I think that's a testament to his political skill and his compassion and his wisdom. So we'll really miss you.
Many of my colleagues are much more eloquent than I, and I don't know what else to add except for the fact that having come to this council just recently, being the youngest kid on the block, I've had a chance to spend a lot of time with you. And as many may attest on staff, I'm spending a lot of time here at City Hall. Most of it is in Dennis's office. And I've been privileged to get to know you and learn a great deal about not only the city, but just overall economy, the state, and other issues that do affect the city. And I really appreciate that. I especially appreciate what Mr. Zipprick referred to. You do know a lot of people. I can tell that we've been at a number of conferences together, and I can see the way people address you and talk to you, that obviously it's not just as a colleague, but someone they respect. And I definitely understand why they feel that way after spending so much time with you. I'm going to miss not only talking about city stuff, but talking about the fun things that you do, the trips that you take. It looks like you're going to have a wonderful retirement in which you'll be able to travel. After listening to your plans, it makes me look forward to retirement, even though I have a long way to go. With that, we are going to miss you, and we wish you the best. Thank you.
Yeah, just very briefly, in addition to the resolution, there's comments that I get from time to time, especially my full-time job or traveling, and how can you be city council member or mayor and you're gone or working full-time or whatever. And I think that's a testament to Dennis and the rest of the staff and the way that they're able to run the city and take care of all the important day-to-day and long-term decisions and implementing what the council have directed as far as general directions, but the hard work of actually digging in and making the city work is something that Dennis and everyone else that works here deserves all the credit, and much appreciated. The other final comment, made a lot of dumb decisions on city council, but I think probably the best one ever made was helping to hire and bring Dennis here. And I'm so thrilled that that occurred, and it's been a privilege to work and know Mr. Holloway for all these years. With that, I would like to present a copy of our resolution and a plaque recognizing again all these accomplishments. If you wouldn't mind making your way over here, please. And I promise I won't read the resolution again. Thank you. Congratulations. And then we have a brief presentation with a plaque noting his retirement, our city seal, and listing the council members. Can't say too much in appreciation, but again, thanks so much for a job well done. We have also some comments from a few other individuals. I believe Dick Schaefer from Chamber of Commerce would like to say a few words.
Dick Schaefer, President, Loma Chamber of Commerce. We consider you to be a friend of the Chamber, and we appreciate everything that you've done for us over the years. We have a little gift here. It says the Loma Linda Chamber of Commerce salutes Dennis Holloway, City Manager, for outstanding service, dedication to the success and growth of business, and considerable contribution to the community, to the Chamber of Commerce, and to the City of Loma Linda. Presented June 23, 2009. Thank you so much.
And have a presentation from Senator Dutton's office.
Robbie Brado from Senator Bob Dutton's office. And if I may, I'm not going to read all of the whereases. In fact, we could not fit on here all of the accomplishments that have happened under your leadership, nor the wonderful comments that have been said by those that have worked with you and under you.
Did you talk to everybody?
You betcha. But I would like to read, therefore I, Senator Bob Dutton, do commend Dennis R. Holloway for his exemplary service to the City of Loma Linda and extend sincere best wishes for a long, happy, and productive retirement. Congratulations.
Thank you very
again.
much.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, Assemblyman Emerson could not be here tonight, so I get to do double duty. And again, we have listed several of the accomplishments. And he writes, resolved by Assemblyman Bill Emerson that the best wishes for a long, happy, and healthy retirement be conveyed to Dennis R. Holloway, along with sincere thanks and appreciation for his many years of dedication and exemplary service to the City of Loma Linda. On behalf of the Assemblyman.
You can tell who the upper house is.
We trust and hope they're solving all the state's budget problems as we speak, so that's great. Lieutenant Jameson from the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department.
I got a gun, yes.
I know, you don't have to keep reminding.
You're right. Anyhow, yesterday when I called you and I asked you if you still had that badge that we gave you, sheriff's badge, you said yes. And I told you that somebody's going to pick it up in 10 minutes because basically you're done. Anyhow, we decided on behalf of the Sheriff's Department and Sheriff Rod Hoops to give you back that badge as a retirement gift. And we mounted it on this
I
plaque.
can't put it in my wallet.
No, no more wallets for you. So it says, Dennis Holloway, City Manager, your commitment and dedication of more than 8 years to the City of Loma Linda and public safety are exceptional. We appreciate the outstanding working relationship we have had with you. Congratulations on your retirement. Thank you.
Very much.
I'm sure there's many others here that would like to express their thanks and tributes tonight, but is all I have slips for, and we've been honored to have a reception earlier this evening that I think many have been able to express their appreciation.
If I get to have a little retort.
Absolutely. So we will turn the time over to our city manager.
I'll be brief. Those that know me know I'm not a public speaker, nor do I like the limelight. And I apologize for my voice. First, I need to introduce my wife. I'm sorry, her name's Connie. I want to thank all the city employees for coming out for my, that's why you're here, isn't it? I guess not. Anyway, thank you very much, council. It's been a joy. This has been by far the most fun of my whole career, my 37 years. I'll never forget you, and with that, I bid you adieu.
Thanks again. We unfortunately have a couple of other retirements this evening. Seems to be catching here. The next individual that is retiring is Engineer Kenneth Howard. And if you could make your way to the podium, please, Mr. Howard. Just a few little snippets of career here. Mr. Howard joined the fire department in March of 1976. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So, boy, he started as a fireman trainee and has worked his way up through the ranks over the past 33 years to his current rank of engineer. He is currently working out of station number 2. That's our new station, correct? I'm getting a little worried. The next retirement's station number 2 too. Must be something about working down there. I don't know. But you know, incredibly valuable service for 33 years in our community, and want to thank you for your service. Having reached a lofty level of number of years of service, we drag out our kind of like our Congressional Medal of Honor equivalent almost. It's our wonderful table lamps. And I would like to present to you one of these lamps. They really are, I think, kind of neat. And in recognition of your many years of service, if you could come forward, present that. Make sure I have the right one. It really does have his name engraved on it with the years of service. And hasten to add, we even have a ecologically correct fluorescent light bulb too.
The lamp will go well with my new remodel that I'm doing at my house. Anyway, I didn't realize this many people really wanted to see me retire until I looked at this crowd tonight. Oh, sorry, you stole my line. I was going to use that, but anyway. It has been an interesting 33 years working for the city of Loma Linda. I've worked with a lot of great people here in the city, people in public works, people in community development, admin, IT, planning, finance, and all the rest. And of course, especially my colleagues with the fire department. I've enjoyed working with those folks all these years. In keeping with that, I do want to make a little statement tonight in regard to some of the finances, if you would just bear with me for just one moment. I know I'm getting out of the fire department this time. I had already planned this years ago. It had nothing to do really with the fiscal situation that we're going through in the state and the country and the city. And I know that we're having a lot of problems right now all over the area. But I know one thing that's being considered right now is a pay cut for the employees. And it's not going to affect me, but I would hate to see that happen for these fine people who have put in lots of years, lots of time to the city, and I know you recognize that. And I think it would be a detriment to their morale if that was to happen. I hope there's some other solution to balance the budget, and carry forth with business here in the city. Anyway, I thought I would say that tonight. What can you do to me anyway? Can't fire me. But anyway, I do want to thank you very much for allowing me to work here in the city. I've met a lot of good people, and I hope I've provided some help to some people here in the community. So thank you very much.
Also tonight, retiring is Fire Engineer Stephen McPherson. If you could make your way forward, please. Engineer McPherson, known to most as Mac, has been with the fire department for just over 28 years. Hasn't quite reached the numbers that Engineer Howard has, but boy, pretty darn close to it. He was hired in April of 1981, back as when we had the paid call firefighter as part of that program. Became a full-time firefighter trainee June '82 and promoted to his current rank of engineer in 2001. As we mentioned earlier, currently working out of Station 2. And I want to again extend a heartfelt thank you from the council and the city to you and Mr. Howard for your tremendous service to our community. Having reached again a long milestone, I have one of those special lamps that I would like to present to you. If you would come forward to receive that, please.
Just a few words. Ken pretty much said everything that I want to say. I started my career in 1975 in Rialto, and I came here in 1981, 5 years over there, and then we're here. And it's been a pleasure, believe me. I've seen a lot of changes. I grew up here in town, and from when I was born in 1947, I graduated out of high school, lived here in Loma. There's been a lot of changes. And as I explained to the younger generation, as you see back here, pinpoint some of the things that have gone on and so forth. But I do hope you take the consideration and think of the young guys here, because it's far better what you've done now to the department than when we started. And it's great to see. And just keep up the good work, everybody, and everybody work together, and you'll be okay. So I thank you for your time. I thank you for the lamp, and I truly am blessed to be able to serve the city. Thank you again.
Thank you.
I just want to make one quick comment. I've been on the city council now a little over 19 years. I've spent quite a bit of time over in the fire department to visit there a lot of times, and every time I'm over there I see these two guys over there. They were here long before I came, and there's going to be a little vacancy over there. I'm going to miss them. Thanks a lot for the very dedicated, good, hard work you guys have put in. Thank you.
I have a slip from Dick Wiley and would like to add a few comments and thanks to some of our retirees here this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Dick Wiley. I'd like to have Steve and Ken come back up here a minute. If they would. Both of you. They're retired. Well, they're tired, but not retired. There's one thing that I've worked with these guys at various times, various situations. And to start with, Ken here, we started off, and Jeff back here, one night we were after a CERT meeting, and Ken was ribbing me. And I said, oh, that's okay. And Jeff says, don't let him talk to you that way. I said, that's okay. I threw it right back at him. And we became good friends all this time. This man has taught all of our CERT classes here in the city. You say, what's a CERT class? It's a community emergency response team. We have got people in this town that are now trained to assist in a disaster. We've trained many more that have gone out and now in the community and areas around here that may not be here to help, but they'll be in a community. And I think you've got 200 plus members that we've gone through the class. Thanks to Ken, he's been a leader in all of these classes. And it's a great accomplishment to the city. It's things that you don't see. There have been times that we've had the final exam with a situation back here in the offices. And I said, why don't we come out and show the council what he's got? They haven't been out here yet. But thanks to you for the program, getting it started. Steve here is one to be looked up to. There was many times that he came in here to work at this station, and amongst things, people will say, I want some time off. Or, can you work for me? Steve volunteers to do that fairly regularly. And it takes out of his own time with what he can do with his family and his wife. Then we had the big fires a couple of years ago, and Steve got called and said, well, can you go? Yeah, I'll be gone for 2 to 3 weeks. Same time, his son was having cancer treatments. So when his days were off, he would either take his son to have cancer treatments, he had to work with his wife and help her. He didn't have downtime. He was working, doing shifts, off on these strike teams, and taking care of the family. And in his spare time, he was trying to get a house fixed up for his son. So there was very little downtime. Now he's raising the girls and helping that way. Now that's dedication. You don't see it here. The community doesn't see it. The guys in the department know about it. But it's one of those things that is something that really needs to be respected in this town. When the calls come, all the guys in the department are there. I've heard comments made. Oh, all they do is sit down in the back room, watch TV, and wait for calls. Come down here, spend a day, see what goes on. But all these others back here that are just starting, some of them have been in places before, other departments, know what we talk about. But it's one of those things. I urge the community to look at what they do, get behind them, and support them. And thanks to you two for great examples to the rest of the crew. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to just point out that we do have on Thursday, June 25 at 4 o'clock in the fire station, formal reception from the department. There's to be some more recognition of their careers and presentations, and their last alarm ceremony. So that will be happening this week at the fire station as well.
Very good. Thanks so much to all of you that are retiring tonight for your dedicated service and leadership and example to those that follow you of how to provide tremendous service to our city and be the people that you are. So thanks again. The next item is a presentation from Loma Linda University Children's Hospital in recognition to the fire department for their efforts in recent breakfast fundraiser.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. And the flurry of Firemen's Association activities that's been in the community the last couple of months, one of the most important, I think, was the reestablishment, somewhat of a calling from the community, of what had been a long-standing pancake breakfast. That happened this year. Firefighter paramedic Max Sepulveda was one of the coordinators of that event and has a presentation to Tiffany Hookstra from Children's Hospital Foundation.
Hello, council members. My name is Max Sepulveda. I'm representative for the Loma Linda Firefighter Association. On May 17th, we decided to have a pancake breakfast to kind of go in with the community and just to show ourselves and how stretching out for the community. We decided to team up with the Children's Hospital. And doing this, we went ahead and raised well over $2,000 for this, with proceeds going to the Children's Hospital Loma Linda. And we have Tiffany Hookstra here. I would like to present her a check for the Children's Hospital on behalf of the Loma Linda Firefighters Association for $2,000. And thank you so much for your hard work and dedication and the contacts and everything you did for us. That was greatly appreciated. And there you go. Thank you.
Good evening. I was just incredibly impressed by the overall professionalism of all the Loma Linda firefighters and the Firefighters Association. Just a brief recap, and I won't take too much of your time, but I received a call from firefighter paramedic Sepulveda a while back wanting to do something for the Children's Hospital, and he announced that we would be the recipient of funding from the Pancake Breakfast. And it was an incredible call to receive, actually, because I know that the firefighters in our community give back daily to our community, saving lives, fighting fires, doing much more than we can even notice and realize. And for them just to reach out to the children of our community and directly affect them meant an incredible amount to us. For those of you that weren't there, I know that some of you in the audience and hopefully some of the council members were able to attend the breakfast, but those that weren't, I just wanted to do a short recap of what went on during the day of. And just the tremendous community support that we received, that the fire department went out and obtained for us, and just showing to the community about Loma Linda is, you know, like someone referred to earlier, a jewel in the Inland Empire, and look at what they're doing. And there were a ton of community members that came out. Community businesses were very supportive in this, and also, once again, the fire department and their support for what they did for us, giving back on their off hours. I mean, I had guys calling me, you know, on off times when they weren't at work, trying to get donations for us, trying to get the word spread for us as well, and just once again showing that overall support for the Children's Hospital was huge. Spreading the word, which I just referred to, as far as the different outlets that they were featured in, we actually got a ton of media from this. Once again, positive feedback for the city of Loma Linda and the fire department from this event. As well as you can see the hundreds of people that turned out the day of, and we received nothing but great feedback as far as how well planned the event was. And I have to tell you that one of the chiefs went through and just kind of did the action plan for the day, and I was incredibly impressed. And actually, am going to be copying that for our organization because it was so well put together and so much time and thought, and everything for the whole agenda for the day was so thought out. It was incredibly impressive. And here's all the guys cooking up for us, as well as some of the community members that came out and some of the kids that came out, and just the smiles on their faces. The different things that they did that day with the station tours, auto extrication, the fire safety trailer, and whatnot. It was pretty incredible to see. And once again, as paramedic Sepulveda referred to, the $2,000 that was raised for the Children's Hospital and the attendees, and who it helps, which that's my passion, are our children at the Children's Hospital. As we had said earlier, we have guests here that are not even from the States that are visiting for the medical center, I'm assuming treatment. We actually have kids coming from all over the world to visit us. We're treating our children right here in the Inland Empire. We treat over 120,000 children daily at Children's Hospital, and we also do life flights and also transports through paramedic, and I know the guys are visiting our Children's Hospital daily. But once again, just a huge thank you to all of the firefighters' support and what they've done to us, and going out of their way and bridging that gap and having that relationship grow with us, because it was incredibly heartfelt as far as our gratitude towards them and what you guys have done for us. And the buzz is still around, and it's still a positive reflection on the city as well as the fire department on what you have done for our children. And people are actually really talking about looking forward to going next year and how much fun they missed out at and how it touched so many. So I just wanted to, on behalf of all the kids at the Children's Hospital and the foundation, would like to present you with this plaque that just says, in great appreciation of the Loma Linda Fire Department, your support has provided our most precious patients hope and healing through the Loma Linda Firefighters Association annual pancake breakfast. And there's a picture of some of our children that are going to be directly affected from the funding from this event. So once again, thank you.
Thanks so much. It definitely makes all of us proud to call Loma Linda home when you hear about some of these activities in our fine city. Unfortunately, the rest of our agenda a little less pleasing on some items, and more of a letdown after all those well-deserved recognitions tonight. But we do have some additional business need to take care of. The next item on our agenda is a joint public hearing of City Council, and I would like to ask the Redevelopment Agency Chairman to call that portion of our meeting to order.
I had a question. Was there some consideration of moving another item up before this item? Or
We could. I was going to follow after this item.
Okay, that's
either,
fine. Then,
either way, depending on...
Then I will call the Redevelopment Agency to order.
We have the joint public hearing with the concurrence of the chairman. We'll ask staff to present a report related to this affordable housing project. Councilor Hipsch.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the council. The item before you, there are two items. One is, as part of the joint public hearing, city and agency action on a proposed disposition and development agreement for the development of a 120-unit affordable rental housing project, which would consist of a manager's unit and 119 rental units, approximately half 2 bedrooms, half 3 bedrooms, to be located on the east side of Poplar, adjacent to the 44-unit project that is proceeding under construction. The agreement provides for a ground lease of 65 years. The agency's financial participation, in addition to providing the land, would be cash of $2.325 million, and the agency would also, at probably at a later date, defray city fees of approximately $1,324,000. The funding source for that is the agency's low and moderate income housing fund, the use of which is restricted to low and moderate income housing. In this case, there is a favorable staff recommendation from the County of San Bernardino for $2 million of home monies toward this project. This would be the first contribution by the county toward an affordable project, housing project in Loma Linda of this nature. The particulars of the agreement are generally as I've described. The developer will be getting an allocation, applying for an allocation for the state of California for tax credits and for the issuance of multifamily housing bonds. Should the bonds be issued, the bonds would be a liability of the developer. The city's only obligation would be to receive money from the developer and to pay it to bondholders through their trustee. That's item 8C, and that is a TEFRA hearing under a federal law, the Tax Equalization and Fiscal Responsibility Act, which requires that in order for private activity bonds to be issued, the highest legislative body in a jurisdiction shall hold a public hearing where people have an opportunity to testify about the project or the issuance of the bond. So the hearing which you have opened also relates to that, as well as the disposition and development agreement. With that, I should also add that the agency has a deficit of affordable housing for redevelopment purposes, and the project will make substantial progress toward reducing the deficit on very low and eliminating the deficit on low-income units. With that, I would be happy to respond to any questions.
Questions from council, agency, to special counsel Hipsch? If not, thank you very much for your report. As is noted, this is a public hearing. Anyone that wishes to speak on this item, I will open public hearing jointly with permission of the chairman of the agency. Seeing a nod of agreement, open public hearing for any comments on this item. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Just one quick question, Ms. Cam, with the 120 units, if we approve this tonight, refresh me how many units are currently under construction with the other project that was spoken about tonight?
There are 44.
So we'll be adding 164 affordable housing units that are not only affordable but a real improvement, I think, to the neighborhood with these two projects. Any further discussion, or is council ready for action on Council Bill R-2009-33?
Move it.
Been moved?
Second.
Been seconded. If no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Agency Chairman.
Is there any motion on CRA Bill R-2009-13?
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It's approved unanimously.
And Council Bill R-2009-38 to authorize bonds to pay for this.
Move it.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. I would like to move now to item number 18 on the agenda. It's possible could have one or two individuals in the audience with an interest on that item. Looking for action by the council on this specific item. Mr. City Attorney, would you like to provide us with recommendations to guide us in our actions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As previously announced, item number 2 on tonight's agenda was a closed session conference with the city's labor negotiators regarding the meet and confer process with the 3 employee groups that are listed. As a result of those discussions tonight, and in order to provide additional time for the meet and confer process, the recommendation is that the council first table item number 18, which is an impasse hearing, take no action on that tonight. And second, that the City Council schedule a further closed session conference with the city's negotiators for the further action by the City Council on July 14th.
Thank you. Looking for...
I move we table item number 18.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. See no further discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That passes unanimously. And then secondly, an action to schedule this on a council agenda, as city attorney mentioned, for further discussion as a result of the meet and confer process for July 14th. Is that correct?
Yes.
So moved.
Moved and seconded for that item. All in favor,
I'll
please.
second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that passes unanimously. All right, thank you. Hate to skip around too much on the agenda, but probably some of you may not choose to stay for all the other exciting parts, so feel free. Let's return to the consent calendar, if we could, please.
I'll move it.
Second.
Consent calendar has been moved and seconded. Any comments or any items? Okay, we'll just give a 2-minute break here. All right. We were discussing the consent calendar. We had an action moved and seconded. Any comments on any of the items? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Takes us to old business, and this is in relation to water rate proposal. And Public Works, would you like to present this, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the last City Council meeting on June the 9th, the staff did present a water rate study, which is to increase the water rate for 11.7% as of July 1st, 2009, and 5.2% on July 1st, 2010. And the City Council did approve the first reading and request that the staff come back tonight to recommend to the City Council that the City Council waive the reading for Council Bill O-2009-08 and ask the City Council to read by title only and adopt the roll call vote.
Any questions of council? Mr. Typet? If not, looking for action as mentioned to move the reading as was stated. That's been moved.
Second.
It's been seconded that we waive the reading and direct clerk to read by title only. All in favor of that action, please say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Madam Clerk.
It is entitled, An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Loma Linda, California, modifying the water rates effective July 1, 2009, and repealing ordinance number 662. You may vote. It passes unanimously.
New business. Item 17 related to some action with CalPERS, et cetera, and we'll ask Finance for comments on this item.
Mayor, council members. This is the implementation of GASB 45, which is required per the GASB board for financial reporting for governmental entities. I'm just going to go over GASB 45 a little bit. It's accounting and financial reporting by employers for post-employment benefits other than pensions. So these other post-employment benefits are health care, it could be life insurance, anything that's not related to the pension that basically we would provide for retirees. GASB 45 basically wants us to establish standards for measuring, recognizing, presenting of other post-employment benefits, the expenditures associated with those, the liabilities, note disclosures, and we'll have to do some required supplementary information in our financial reports. Currently, the city only offers health coverage for post-employment benefits. So that's what we offered through the CalPERS program. And we had an actuarial study performed on our liability, and based on that actuarial study, the valuation date was June 1st of 2008, and the city's actuarial present value of total projected benefits is $658,000. The actuarial study will have to be performed every 2 years for any updates to new employees, retirees, or change in status and election of coverage. The actuarial present value of total projected benefits is made up of two components. One is the normal cost, which is for future service of current employees up until their retirement, and then we have an unfunded actuarial accrued liability, and that is for current retired employees plus current employees that are still providing service, but for previous service they have provided to us. GASB wants us to, if we start pre-funding, we will have to start setting aside what's called an ARC, which is an annual required contribution. Based on the actuarial study that was performed, the beginning pre-funding the liability will be over 30 years. The calculated annual required contribution for the city is $49,300. Of that, the normal cost is the $18,600, and the unfunded liability is $30,700. Currently, we use the pay-as-you-go method, which is we pay medical coverage for the actual retirees that have elected to take the coverage, and that's right now is $16,500. So the difference, the additional cost would be the $32,000. To fund it, and of that cost, it's about $11,700 to the general fund. The other ones get spread out to the other funds within the city. We are recommending to join CalPERS. They established a trust program for these other post-employment retirement benefits. So we would like to recommend joining that program and to start pre-funding the liability by the amount of the annual required contribution.
Thank you. One immediate question. This additional $32,000 amount, has that been plugged into our current budget proposal?
Currently, it can be absorbed in the current budget. The way we do our budgeting, we actually round up to the nearest hundred, so once you round up all through the departments, it will be absorbed in the current budgeted numbers.
But it's not listed as a specific budget expenditure in the previous document?
We do budget that pay-as-you-go amount, but that unfunded liability, no, we don't budget it.
Thank you.
How did we get into that fix?
It was never required for us to measure the liability before. Some agencies may have chosen to do that, but it was not required per GASB. But now with Statement 43 and 45, they're requiring it now.
So, in effect, until we did the actuarial study, we didn't even know we had that liability.
Well, in the back of our minds, we knew we did, but we didn't
Or
have a measurement
we didn't know
for
how
it.
much it was.
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it?
For better or for worse, I think some of these new accounting standards at least help us try and plan better for future obligations.
All of the standards worked really well last year for all those corporations that were underwater.
Any additional comments? We have a choice. I guess we could be out of compliance with some of these requirements, which I guess short term probably be fine, and secondly may not fiscally be very responsible either. So probably in reality, no. I don't think we have much of a choice. So
I move the agreement and election. Whatever it is.
Second.
This is the recommendations as listed under item 17 on our agenda, and it's been moved and seconded, and won't read the entire contents of that recommendation. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And it carries unanimously. We have dealt with item 18 as we already mentioned. The next two items, based on our action that we've taken on 18, we'll ask council and city manager any further comments or items related to these two particular listed agenda items.
Are you talking about item 19 or 20? Or?
Well, let's start with just item 19. Is there any action that we need to take this evening based on our
Based upon
previous?
your previous action, I don't believe there's any action required on number 19.
Mr. City Attorney, is there anything specific we need to do legally, or can we, what language should we employ for this?
Well, I think the intent would be to bring that item back when the other labor matters are concluded and handle those jointly at some point. I think you could reschedule that on a future agenda.
Do we need formal action, or can we just direct city clerk to reschedule at the appropriate time?
I think the clerk could take that direction tonight.
Thank you. Item 20. Again, Mr. Holloway, briefly, some comments related to the budget in relation to the previous actions that we've taken.
Well, I think it's the council's desire to postpone the approval of the budget, at least the majority of the council, until such time as the labor relations of the negotiations are finalized.
Comments from council?
Question of clarification. Is it possible to actually approve all the items up to M and N? Or does that put us in any financial jeopardy? Some of it is, from what I'm seeing, is approving an amount of loans going back and forth between various funds to the RDA, and which are not related directly to the general fund.
Correct. You could take those actions if you so desire.
Councilman Peterson.
I was just going to ask if there was, if we were going to be given a chance or an opportunity tonight to discuss any of the items that are on there, even though we wouldn't take action on them, you know, that gives all of us thought for how we would proceed when the budget does come up. You know, the further ahead you can think about it, the more thought you can put into it.
Certainly, you can discuss the budget. That's what it's on the agenda. You can either take action or choose not to take action.
I mean, I don't know.
Discuss it, argue. Agreed, disagreed?
If there is a consensus by the council, again, it goes against every instinct and desire I have to not enact a budget by the end of June. Fought hard to make certain that this has happened, and thanks with Manager Holloway, we've achieved that successfully now for 7 years, but unfortunately, I think as has been expressed by previous council action, we are doing our absolute level best to continue our meet and confer process, to reach satisfactory agreements with our employees, and it is obviously budget interweaves with those discussions, so I will have to reluctantly support deferring approval of the budget tonight. However, I think it is appropriate for any substantive budget discussions of items that may enter into that to discuss, but maybe if there's consensus, we'll hold detailed discussions of items that won't have any significant impact on this till we finally approve it, presumably sometime in the not too distant future. So open if there's a consensus by council to go that direction, great. If not, now's your time to disagree.
Are you saying that you want us to go ahead and start going through the items until we reach the budget?
No, I would like personally, if there's consensus, to hold off on any actions on any of the budget items other than just to discuss potential new ideas that may be out there to help us with some of this budget process. Is there a
I'm sorry.
Sure.
Just for clarification, I take it we will have an opportunity to discuss the budget in more detail in several weeks.
Absolutely, that would be my intent.
My thinking is if we get started tonight, it might be hard to know exactly where to go, because I understand there's some things that need to be resolved, and I was going to refrain from maybe going too far down the path tonight to allow the other matters to go forward, because I'm not sure where to stop.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it's difficult. Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, my question is, and I can see that on items M and N, but on, let's say, item K, for example, agreement for services with special counsel, is something lapsing, or is this...
No, it's just we've received requests from both of those consultants, the special counsel and also our lobbyists, for increases, and we felt the proper time to bring them forward to you was at the budget time, when you considered your budget deliberations. But certainly there's no problem with approving those contracts this evening, if that's your desire.
Because they're not really in question at this time.
If
when you say in question, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, there's no action taken previously in this meeting that would have any bearing on items A through L, for example.
That's correct.
If we did not approve those two items, do we have any indication whether they would be willing to continue under the old agreement for the next month?
I'm sure it would be no problem with either one.
And again, to clarify for any that may have a question, as I understand it, by not having a resolution to the meet and confer process and not having a resolution to the budget as far as the rest of city employees, they will continue on under the current contract. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, but as one of your colleagues pointed out, the meet and confer process has no impact on A through K.
Just want to make sure we're not missing anything and we're clear on all the implications of our action tonight. It's certainly up to a consensus of the council. My initial inclination was to hold this as a package, but hey, this is up to you.
I would go with that too.
We can go either way, but in the interest of fairness and efficiency, I think that moving through item A through L at this time, I don't think hurts us in any way. We can continue to debate items M and N, which is basically the overall city council budget and RDA budget. It's actually more related to the city, the general budget rather than the RDA budget, which is item number M. I still see no reason for us to move forward with items A through L and dispense with them at this time. No reason not to. I think that since we're here, we have it on the agenda, we should go through them, and if anybody wants to make comments about them, this is the time to do it. But I don't see why we couldn't move forward with those now. But that's my view, and I guess I'm waiting to hear any other views.
Probably need to come to a consensus before we launch into anything, if we do so choose to. I've indicated my preference. Councilman Popescu indicated his preference. I think Mayor Pro Tem has indicated his preference. Looks like Councilman Ziprick and Peterson would like you to weigh in on this and see if we can come to a consensus.
I'm with you. I'd take them as a package.
I can see advantages both ways, but I think tonight might be good just to hold off.
As I hear it, consensus is to hold off on the budget as a package, and we'll continue that till we have further information from the meet and confer process. Item 21, well, I'm sorry, before we leave 20, was there any brief comments related to just general items on the discussion, number one, and then number two, look for if there's any specific direction as far as any items.
Okay, I guess we don't need an action apparently.
Okay,
it just comes back next meeting. No action.
Any brief discussion of any general concepts or ideas related to the budget? Have the Budget Committee Chairman here. Any items discussion tonight, or are you comfortable with presenting those when we entertain the budget formally? Okay. Thanks, Mr. Gallant. All right, seeing and hearing no further comments, we'll go on to item 21, and this is appointment to city committee, commissions, and boards. And we have listed in our agenda a number of these that we have. It's always amazing to see all the work that goes on in the city by all these different groups, and the amount of effort and volunteer participation that there is. It's always impressive. So the first committee is the Parks, Recreation, and Beautification Committee. And looks like we have one vacancy. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And no applications on file, correct? So recommendation that we have is to reduce membership to 7 and appoint 5 members and so forth for 3-year terms.
Move it. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on that? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Personnel Board, this is one of those boards that we hope doesn't meet very often and so forth. Our current status with the Personnel Board, we have no vacancies.
move we continue, Mr. Miller.
Mr. Miller is up for another 2-year term. It's been moved that we reappoint Mr. Miller.
Second.
Mr. City Manager, when's the last time this thing met? Anybody remember?
It's never met since I've been here.
It's great. Try and keep that tradition and goal up. We've had Mr. Miller moved. I don't believe I heard a second.
There was a second.
I'm sorry, didn't hear it then. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Planning Commission, we have, I believe, 1 vacancy, and we have 2 applications. Ms. Palmieri and Mr. Christensen. And I don't believe, have either one here tonight, is that correct? All right. We have applications on file. I think most of us have spoken with each of these individuals. They both are, I think, very good candidates, and would look to the council for direction on action on this item.
I'd like to move the appointment of Ms. Palmieri.
That's been moved.
I will second that.
I hear a second. Any further discussion?
I have a question. Trying to recall when we had a chance to meet with her. Did she come to the council? I don't know that I've...
She did.
Yes, she
was
did.
here.
Is she here tonight?
She is not.
She was here last summer.
I'm trying to remember the discussion with her, because that's been... How long ago was that?
Last year, when in September, I think, when the other planning commissioner had resigned.
Okay.
So we had a number of applicants, and that's when Mr. Aloha was appointed.
One of the questions I had,
I'm uncomfortable doing this tonight without seeing people. I mean, Mike, I know, we know him, but I don't recall her either.
I don't recall her. I'd like the opportunity to meet her. She might be great. I know Mike has had some experience on it. And one of the questions is sometimes you get acquainted with people. That's obviously a very important commission. Would it be possible to put this over and have an opportunity to meet her?
I'm not willing to vote on it until she comes back here again.
Any other comments or discussion on this item? We do have an action that's been moved and seconded, so we will take an action on that. If there's no other comments,
I move we table this motion. Table this, and I think that takes precedence. Is that right? Motion to table.
No, I'll second that for the opportunity to have a chance
It's
to meet her.
moved and tabled, as I understand. No discussion is generally in order on a motion to table, and we will take immediate action on that since it's been moved and seconded. All in favor of tabling action on appointing member to the Planning Commission, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
No.
It fails 3-2. It, I believe, is still appropriate to go forward with an action that's been moved and seconded since the tabling action failed. I think we've had our discussion.
Mr.
Sure.
Mayor, before we go too far in this, I have a question. She has not served on any committees that I know of. Does anybody know if she has? Has she been involved in the community in any aspect of the civic government? Because this is obviously a very important commission.
I would actually agree with you. That's why one of the reasons I seconded Mr. Rigsby's motion to appoint her was after reading her very eloquent and detailed application as to why she would like to serve on the Planning Commission and what her views are, and given the fact that she's lived in the city for it looks like well over 20 years, I think she's more than highly qualified in being able to read the the tea leaf, so to speak, of the community. One particular item that really caught my attention was her desire to really focus on parks, and especially children's parks. And in the last few years, we've done a lot to try to enhance the recreational facilities for our residents. And as you well, Mr. Ziprick, we've acquired some land in the hills, and that's wonderful that we have that land available for everyone. However, a lot of the times, much of that land is really accessible only by some very brave individuals and elite mountain bikers, and I think she is one person that can add a lot to our community by trying to emphasize the need to improve some of our parks. As you all know, I'm very much in favor of trying to acquire more land to have a more active park in the flat section of the city. And I think that if we had individuals on the planning commission that reflect the will of a lot of the residents, which is that they want parks in which they have access to, I believe that she can fulfill that role quite well. So that's one of the reasons that I believe she is highly qualified for that.
I appreciated very much her statement, and she talked about something that's near and dear to my heart, which is trails. I also care very much about parks. I note that the park committee had a vacancy, and she didn't apply to fill that. And that would seem, if somebody is passionate about expanding the park system, that is actually the committee that works most on that. I'm not sure that that's exactly what the Planning Commission has been doing. It's been more that the Planning Commission deals with some different types of issues.
Well, actually, I would agree with you. They do. And one of the issues we're going to be running into here is that in order to acquire land, there are going to have to be some decisions to be made regarding development. And sometimes when we're too busy developing and to the hilt and putting in lots of apartments and condos, it makes it really difficult to set aside any land for park. And I think that if you have a planning commissioner who already understands that, I think that shows that they're in tune with the direction of the city. So it's not necessarily that she likes parks, but she understands what's happening. And I think that is in itself a very important factor. Now, I know you and Mr. Peterson made reference to the fact that Mr. Christensen wasn't here, and there was no need for him to be here because he had been on the Planning Commission for many years. However, in all fairness, we do know him quite well. And Ms. Palmieri was interviewed when we were here some time ago, and I believe that my understanding is the reason she's not here tonight is because her daughter's having a baby, and Mr. Christensen had an opportunity to come in and express his viewpoint, and he wasn't here either. So in fairness, I think that we need to move forward. This is a vacancy that tragically happened because Mr. Leloha passed away, and it's not something that we want to we do with a heavy heart. However, we have two applicants, like Mayor Brower just stated, and I think we should move forward in appointing this qualified individual.
Mr. Mayor, I guess I have a question.
Sure.
Do you remember this applicant also?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know this person at all, and I've never really had a chance to talk to this person. I might vote for the person, but the problem is I feel like I'm voting somewhat blindly, and usually on something like this, because it's been a long time since we have, it's been a year since we've interviewed anybody on this. So anyway, we may get outvoted on this point, but it just seems like it would be a very, since this is fairly long term, it would be useful to have a chance to talk to that person again. I appreciate the person liking parks and trails, and Ovi, I think something you need to realize is there are a lot of people who are interested on this side of the dais in parks also. Sometimes I get the feeling you're not convinced of that because we're very passionate about parks. I've attended the park committee through the years and believe in them. But I think one of the things I'm trying to understand is there's a number of facets to this person who I don't know her at all. I have no idea what her background would be on planning decisions, and there's more to it than just one aspect. And I think it'd be useful to have a chance to talk to her a little bit further. But obviously the majority rules on this, but I'd really like a chance to get better acquainted.
I guess I may very well vote for her. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't know if I met her on the street. I have no idea who this woman is. I don't recall. There was a number of people came and talked. I'm very disappointed that Mike Christensen's not here. If he wanted to be on the planning commission, why isn't he here tonight, for crying out loud? You know, and I guess I'm a little surprised at the unwillingness of the rest of the council to just extend common courtesy to the rest of us that we can at least meet this person. I mean,
You had an opportunity to meet her. You actually questioned her. I'll bring down the tape. Mr. Ziprick actually questioned her extensively on her retirement. You have.
But this has been a long time. I don't have the tape in front of me.
Yeah, I think that I understand
Ovi,
your
I don't
concern.
have photographic
but
memory on every point.
Yes,
and
I believe you're.
I'm reading her statement, and she's very good on trails, very good on parks, but I don't know if she has any other background on any other aspects of planning.
I don't believe that we need to have people with background. I believe we have members in the community who have a desire to serve. It's not a matter of whether they have a degree or not. It's a matter of understanding what the direction of the community is. I think we can draw that conclusion clearly from reading a very eloquent and lengthy application and from looking at it.
There are people in the state penitentiary who could write something a whole lot better than this, and I'm not comparing her to that. I'm just saying there's more to it than that. I mean, it's just a matter of common courtesy to be able to at least see the person and talk to them once. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with it?
I believe that this appointment is one that is important. We have decisions that have to be made that's going to be coming from the Planning Commission soon.
Before I vote for her.
However, extending it for another meeting in order for Mr. Ziprick to interrogate her, I don't think is going to make much difference.
Ovi.
How about 30 seconds for final comments,
Okay.
Councilman Ziprick and
It's
Councilman
not so much an interrogation as just to get a little bit better acquainted. I mean, if that's wrong, I guess that's wrong, but I think it would be a good thing to do. Because what it kind of puts us in a position of having to do is vote yes or no without having a fresh recollection who this person is. And I just don't think that's the best public policy. But if it's forced on us, then it's forced on us. But it's usually not the best way to do something.
I believe that her application was filed well before the deadline. You had an opportunity to call her yourself at any time and ask her questions, and you had opportunity to talk to her. I think they don't necessarily have to be, quizzed in public on everything, and just the fact that we now have other decisions to be made on other committee members, and none of them are here. So I'm not sure that it's so important that each one of them has to sit in front of us and answer questions.
This is one commission that is very unique under state law, and you know that. So.
I mean, traditionally, in this council, I've been on it 19 years now, we have always had the planning commissioners come here, potential ones come and talk to us in front of us. That's been a tradition for the last 19 years. Well, we haven't had a planning commission for 19 years. But ever since we've had a planning commission, that's the way we've operated. And I just assumed that both of them would be here tonight. I just assumed that. It's just the way we've always done it. In fact, we put off decisions before when people couldn't be here until they could be here and we could make our decision.
Any further comments? Otherwise,
yes, I was just wondering, when is the next Planning Commission meeting? Next Wednesday. Okay, so there are implications for quorum.
We've had one of the planning commissions that have been absent a number of times because of illness, and we are going to have other projects come in front of them, and I think that delaying it any further, it's going to jeopardize some of those projects, especially projects that impact, like all of them, the whole community.
I'd like to ask, Mr. Mayor, if I can ask a question of the community development. Is there something major pending next Wednesday?
The agenda includes the request to expand the Loma Linda Broadcasting Network building and a 5-unit condominium project on Cole Street and a conditional use permit for a cell tower. So.
Okay.
And we have been told that we will only have 3 commissioners at that meeting. One is going to be out of town
are these items, I don't know if you're in a position to say, because we obviously don't participate in that, but are these considered to be controversial items or have a lot of opposition, or at this point haven't received a lot of negative comments?
I would say that at least two of the items have some issues that need to be resolved by the commissioners, that they've been continued several times.
Okay. Thank you.
Without getting into
All right,
their
that's fine.
specific agenda issues, there are issues that need to be resolved, and there are some difficult decisions for the commission to make.
Okay. Thank you.
I recall this applicant as being very well spoken, very committed to the city, presented herself very well. I remember that she was under serious consideration last time, and there was a little bit of a boxing of the votes, and I believe if she had been moved primarily in the last round, she would have won the appointment last time around, possibly. You can't tell everything, but I believe that three of us remember her well enough to proceed. And I think the other two, and I have sympathy for your position that you don't know her well enough. And like's been said to me, 3 votes prevail. If you don't have enough information, I guess one of the options is to abstain, but I think that I have enough information to proceed tonight.
If we're ready for a vote, the action to appoint her has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Here are 3 affirmative votes, which I believe will appoint her to the term on the Planning Commission. Senior Board, we have 2 terms expiring, Mr. Ravel and Ms. Worley. They've expressed a willingness to continue. And so if it's acceptable to the council, looking for action on those 2 individuals for the Senior Board or Senior Center.
I move that we reappoint the 2 members.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 That carries unanimously. Traffic Advisory Committee. We have a vacancy. Mr. Loader has declined consideration for another term. I'd just like to publicly thank Mr. Loader for his years of service on this and other committees of the city. Ever since I've been aware of anything on city politics, Mr. Loader has been actively involved, and appreciate his efforts, and I know there's always a time to step aside and so forth. Anyway, we have Mr. Stewart and Mr. Popescu expressed willingness to serve another term. So the recommendation is to reduce the membership and appoint those 2 members to the committee.
I move the recommendation.
I have a question before seconding. If we
Sure.
reduce the membership, then do we have a vacancy? Okay, so why are we doing both?
We can...
Well, if we pass A, we still have to reappoint them. So A, just...
Yeah.
So if we do A, B drops off the agenda, correct?
Because if we don't appoint one of them, then B does come into play.
So reduce membership to 11 by reappointing these 2 members. Been moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That carries unanimously. Trails Development Committee, we have 1 vacancy, and we have 2 applications on file.
Is the vacancy Mr. Walling's? Do we have one addition to that?
Yeah, I had the same question because there are 9 members and I only see 8.
There was a vacancy declared when one member was removed for non-attendance.
Who was that?
Randy Stevens.
So at this point, Mr. Walling could be reappointed, and then there's one vacancy beyond that?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're looking to appoint 2 positions. Is that correct?
I had a question regarding Mr. Walling. How long has he been on this Trails Committee?
Since it started.
Which was?
July of 2002.
2002?
No, it's
Yeah.
before that.
Yeah, it's
Way before
been
that.
around a long time.
As a standing committee.
Maybe it
As a
was
standing
reorganized.
committee, yeah. It was an ad hoc committee. for
Is
that.
Mr. Walling a resident of Loma Linda?
No.
I'm a little uncomfortable having a chairman of a committee who's not a resident of Loma Linda. I like the idea that we have 2 applicants here who actually are residents of Loma Linda, and they've shown an interest in serving. And I think it's always good to look at opportunities to appoint new members. And I'm especially impressed with the first applicant.
Are you opposing Mr. Walling being reappointed?
I am. I think we have an opportunity here to look at other members to join this committee.
Well, Mr. Walling has a lot of background in trails. He's had a great deal of impact on getting the trail system going. In fact, Ovi would be a huge loss if he were not on the committee. He's president of the Lopers. Be a big loss to the community if he was not on the committee.
Mr. Mayor. Can
Yes,
I make a
Mr.
proposal?
Mayor Pro Tem.
I would like to move that we increase the number of this committee to 10 and appoint all 3 applicants.
I'd second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Just a quick comment. I think Mr. Walling's been very valuable in this role. I agree with the sentiments of Councilmember Popescu of trying to maximize residents of Loma Linda, but I think there are at times some situations that warrant other individuals, and especially related to Loma Linda Lopers and his contributions. I think this is a good solution. I will support the action. All right, if no further discussion, all in favor of the 3 appointments and increasing the size by 1, please say aye.
Aye.
And that is approved unanimously. All right, we have our liaisons. I don't know, without going through one by one, is there any one that wishes to change what committee they're liaison with? If I hear none, certainly willing to leave things as is, unless, again, like I hear, sounds like there's unanimous.
Do we need to act or just fail to act?
My understanding would be that we have the discretion to say the current representation will continue with our current liaisons. This isn't officially codified in any city regulation. It's more kind of a self-directed council action. If city attorney's comfortable with that, we will continue with these liaisons as listed. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I do have a question. Is some of the, I know we've talked in the past about things sometimes that occur in the different committees. Just want to clarify, if any of us attend any of the meetings where there's another council member, I know it's not a problem. I know sometimes we have 2 at the budget committee. If any other council members go, is there any particular concern on that, or not really? We're still free to go to that. So I'm seeing nodding of heads indicating it's okay.
Mr. City Attorney.
Well, the Brown Act regulates meetings of the city attended by a majority of the city council, or even separate meetings conducted where there's a serial discussion involving a majority of the council. There's not a problem attending a regularly noticed and agendized committee of the city that is complying with the Brown Act. The only issue might come up where there might be matters that are within the jurisdiction of the city council that would be of a quasi-judicial nature, such as something related to a conditional use permit or applicant of some private party, application, excuse me, of a private party. And in those cases, you need to be even more careful about not prejudicing any future hearings that might come before you. Excuse me. So typically the recommendation is that these subsidiary bodies maintain their independence and function, and that any appeals or subsequent hearings be preserved as independent by the city council with the due process rights preserved. Legislative type matters or other type matters don't have quite the same due process issues, but to back up to where I started, noticed public meetings that are agendized under the Brown Act, you may attend and participate as to the agendized items, but as any private citizen would.
Now, if let's say that a third council member went to a budget committee meeting and you had two members already there, does it work that the third member and the first and the second members who are there can discuss and take part in the items that are on the agenda of that budget committee?
Yes, only as part of the agendized meeting.
Okay.
They couldn't go beyond what's on that agenda and discuss, for instance, what's on the next city council agenda.
Okay.
That's the danger, is whenever the three are together, that the conversations be limited to the Brown Act meeting that you're attending.
Okay.
And not go beyond that to other items within your jurisdiction that are not properly the jurisdiction of that committee that you're attending or observing.
Because one of my questions, I did attend years ago one or more of the budget committee meetings. It's been some time. And I guess my question is the format, because that is the one that has the most council representation on it. And I wasn't sure if the format was that the council members if you folks take an active role, or if it's more the budget committee debates and you're there more observing. I wasn't sure how the format worked. Maybe I could get enlightenment sometime on that. So
Come and attend.
I'm not sure there is a format. The chair runs the meeting just like anything else, and if comments are out of order, the chair declares them out of order. So I take from what you're saying that we could appoint all five of us to every committee.
Well,
that's what I'm taking.
It's not my understanding that you would participate as members of the committee.
But as liaisons.
Yes, you could theoretically attend, but it kind of defeats the purpose if you're all there. And again, certain items such as the Historical Commission, parks, traffic, trails may make recommendations to the Planning Commission for action on matters such as a conditional use permit. And there could be issues of due process if you participate or sway that decision in any way before it comes before you.
But for the Budget Committee, for example, your argument is that it would defeat the purpose if we were all five appointed. I would argue that for that committee, that's not necessarily true, because the purpose of the Budget Committee is not necessarily to spare us the responsibility. It's to get community input, and we're getting community input. And to me, I've been so enriched by being on the Budget Committee because I actually received the input directly from the Budget Committee members, and I thought that was much more valuable than sitting here and getting a Budget Committee report. So I would argue it doesn't defeat the purpose. I invite everybody to come every time. The Budget Committee is really good.
And that's kind of why I asked the question, is because I've been cautious about going because I was concerned about a Brown Act violation.
Are you concerned now after the discussion?
Well, I guess not.
Then we'll see you next meeting.
Yeah, no, when it is. I'd like to get agendized on it. If I don't know who to ask.
I think once we pass the budget, we may have another meeting.
Well, I'm sure we'll have more meetings. So I just would like to then be added, I guess, to getting the notices. Okay, thank you.
I guess, I can make just one quick comment. Again, I suppose the Budget Committee more than any other, the committee was set up originally as a citizens committee, and I wouldn't want in any way to affect or disturb the independence of that committee.
Agreed.
That would be my biggest concern, and that may not be a problem. But I know that if I'm sitting there or any other council meeting is sitting there, the Budget Committee may not react the same way they would if I wasn't in the room.
You're so intimidating, Floyd.
What was that?
You're so intimidating.
Well, I mean, or anybody. I mean, it's just the way it is.
And I would spin it a little bit differently. I think the Budget Committee was not independent in the past. It was in a vacuum because its actions somewhat didn't quite mesh with the city's actual decisions. So I think that our being there gives them twice the influence over the council from the citizens rather than the other way around. I don't think, I think at a couple of points, if we get a little bit too uppity, they slap us down and say, "Hey, this is our committee." I don't see these people as being intimidated at all.
But I actually think that there has been evidence in the past where some of the committee's members have become influential and have participated. I know the Trails Committee was very much involved in promoting Measure U, which the citizens voted against. I know there are members on the Planning Commission that were very much involved in campaigning against Measure V. So obviously
your
they are
statements
very
there
much
are
involved.
not accurate.
Well,
that is not factual.
Mr. Christensen was very much involved in promoting Measure U.
No,
Mr. Walling was
wait a
very
minute.
much promoted Measure U.
No, your statement was the committees. Individuals can do anything they want.
Well, but they put themselves on flyers of being members of those committees as if they were speaking for the committee. And all those flyers were involved in all those campaigns.
Did propose Measure U.
Yes.
Well, there's work that was done by the committee, the actual committee, a number of committees. There were workshops that were held, and all the committees held workshops over here in the senior citizen room.
But we can't argue that they're independent if they get involved in campaigns.
No, they're proposing legislation that goes to the community. That's actually doing the job the committees are supposed to be
Except
doing.
sometimes the legislation is very more pro-development, and that's one of the problems we've had in the past. And we're trying to remedy that solution by having more members on some of these committees that represent the community and not the development community.
You're not stating things accurately. Save Loma Linda does not have public meetings. No one can go and take part and be there as part of the public. It's not on
yet,
TV.
most
It's
of the
not on
residents
TV.
approved of what Save Loma was doing, overwhelmingly approved most of the things that they pushed. So I think they represent a pretty good view of what the community wants.
But
I think it's
not
unfair.
open to the public.
The flyers and their involvement in the community is open with, I can't even tell you how many times we've had public input as to what we're doing or we're not doing.
Your
But for
meetings are
Mr.
not
Peterson
public
to
committees,
imply
sir.
that some of these
Your
committees
meetings
are
not-
independent, when yet we've had planning commissioners and we've had the Trails Committee, which you've attended almost every time, whose
liaison,
chairman
that's
stands
right.
up here and makes statements about Measure U, and then argue that, they're independent. I just think it's a very false sense of security for the community.
Actually, your statements are not factual. Save Loma Linda operates as a private group. It is not a public committee. These other meetings are publicly agendized meetings, and citizens take part. And quite frankly, what the Trails Committee worked on was worked up by a lot of committees that met in a large workshop. Save Loma Linda was invited to be part of that workshop. So I just want to correct the record.
I think the point is that those committees have been influenced by council members who have also taken very active positions that have been very counter to the community.
And you're wrong.
As judged by subsequent elections.
Actually, the last measure that passed, T, was overwhelmingly passed by close to 87% of the vote, yes.
There was no controversy on that.
But
you didn't support it.
I did.
After the fact.
Yeah, I believe the Measure T
wanna
didn't go
make
far
sure
enough to address the
I just want
concerns
to
you
make
claim
sure
it did.
there are people that you don't put out false propaganda.
That is not false. It's for the record. Mr. Christensen, the Planning Commission chairman, actively campaigned on Measure U, which was funded primarily by campaign donors who supported you and Mr. Peterson. Nobody can question that. And I will bring you the FCCC filings of all the members who've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to elect you and Mr. Peterson, who actively campaigned against Measure V, who actively campaigned for Measure U.
Obi,
okay? That is all fact.
You have been in politics long enough to know that when you have independent committees, the candidates have absolutely no control over any part of that.
And you think we buy that?
Yes. In fact, that's the law. Obi, that's the law. That's the way it works.
If it didn't work that way, we'd be in jail.
So it's coincidental that someone who spends hundreds of thousands of dollars to get you elected just happens to have all their votes going that way.
Obi,
and
my-
you think
my
that
budget-
residents, that's the reason
Obi,
why residents
Obi,
kicked some of you guys out last time.
Ovi, the fact is that my campaign budget was very, very small. I do my own walking. You know that. And I'm not allowed to coordinate. And if you understand election law, I'm not allowed to tell those people what to put in and what not to put in. That is the state law. And I have followed that scrupulously.
Well,
Are we-
apparently that complete independence is not shared by everyone on the committee because they tend to use the same bulk mailing numbers, as I recall.
Well, but those of us who are independent of that have nothing to do with that. That is the way it works.
But why is it that after they spend all that money, it happens to be right after you voted for something, and then for the rest of the year, you've been talking and voting against things that supported by the community, and it happens to be in
that's
line
not
with
true.
those people who
That's
supported to get
actually
you
quite-
elected.
You know what? That's
Anyway,
in
we don't need to
propaganda.
debate this. I think that's all we have to say.
The problem is that when you put out a statement like that and it's simply unfactual, I've got to respond.
I
You
will
do
give
that a
you.
lot.
I will give you the evidence showing that there's
Please
hundreds
do.
of thousands of dollars
Please do.
spent on your behalf
But I-
by lots of individuals whose vote they've benefited from, and the people have clearly seen
That's
very
not-
clearly that there's a connection between your votes and developers who want to develop the city to the hilt.
That's
And then you've
not-
had committee members
Actually, that's
who
not
are
true.
on these committees, and you claim they're independent, and yet they're so involved in campaigns. It's very clear.
Obi, you make up facts as you go.
Let's move on. We potentially, I'm sure, could have a very detailed discussion for many of hours, so unless the rest of the council feels differently, any other reports
I
of
enjoyed
councilmen?
that. I do feel different. I enjoyed that. Thank you.
Any other reports of councilmen? Seeing none, that takes us on to reports of officers. Before the specific agendized item, any other reports of officers?
Just wanted to, not officers, but as a council member, I'm sorry, I'm probably out of turn. For those of you who perhaps might have not read in the paper, I just wanted to formally announce for those who may not have read in the paper that I'm now a direct employee of the medical center. I just got hired a couple of weeks ago to provide home health for an occupational therapy, and I'm thrilled to be working for the best institution that I believe, a medical center in this county, and I look forward to representing them because I think they do a very important job, not only for our city, but many members in our community. And I appreciate the opportunity they've given me in representing them, and I hope to do a good job.
Any other reports of officers? If not, we have item 23. This is a status report. Councilmember Popescu and myself have recused ourselves previously with active involvement of this issue due to conflict of interest. My understanding, this is just kind of a status report. I don't intend to have active discussion of the specifics, so I will choose to remain here unless city attorney feels uncomfortable and advises me differently.
No, Mr. Mayor, I would just report on that I received today a draft of a memorandum of understanding for review and discussion by the city. I sent that on to JARB, and he and I have not had a chance to talk about it yet, nor myself with the city manager yet, but so that will come back at a future date.
Any other comments, council, on this item?
I was just hoping that this item would be resolved by now. I just think that we're spending too much time on it.
All right. We, as was indicated earlier, will move back into closed session after the RDA meeting. We will put, since very likely there will be no public here by that point, I will just simply announce we will plan to adjourn to City Council meeting on the 14th of July to continue to work on issues, but if anyone happens to be here, we'll make that formal in a little while. I will turn time over now to Chairman Rigsby.
Okay, the redevelopment agency is still in session. Are there any other items to be added or deleted?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Are there any oral reports or comments from the public on any non-agendized items? Seeing none.
Minutes.
Yes, the minutes.
I'll
We've
move
already
the
done
approval.
item number 1. Go ahead.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on the minutes? Any opposition? Seeing none. Item number 3. Agreement between the agency and the Chamber of Commerce relating to an agency loan in the amount of $25,000. Is this bundled with the budget, or is this something we can take independently?
No, this is actually funded from this year's current budget.
Okay.
So
No-
move
no
it.
impact on the next
Okay.
year's budget.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Just make a brief comment on that. I'm happy to help the chamber. I'm hoping the chamber will take a more active role in trying to promote our city and to outside interests other than the businesses that are in it. And I think that we need to work more closely with the chamber. And I think now that we have even a more vested interest in that, I think we need to work together with them more to promote the city and all what it has to offer.
Okay. Any other discussion? Is there any opposition to this agreement? Seeing none, it's approved. Item 4 is, I believe, continued to the next meeting, but without any formal action, just letting it lie there, correct? Okay, any reports? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you very much. There's an agency item, then we're not adjourned. We're back.
Closed session.
Closed session.